It definitely was the runway show the whole fashion world had been waiting for months, Mathieu Blazy'S debut at Chanel. And before the show, I was begging the fashion gods for mercy, please, please, please give us something good. Chanel needs something better. And were they merciful? I'm still not sure. The press, the fashion press, loved it. I'm still a bit conflicted. I think it was a solid effort. Was it the most memorable show? Was it a show that we will all remember in 5, 10, 20 years? I'm not so sure, but let's take a closer look. And just before I start, the housekeeping I have to do, this is a non-sponsored video. I'm just sharing my personal opinion and my research here. Everything is alleged and for entertainment purposes only. When the show started and I saw the first looks, I was like, okay, that's it. No mercy for us this time, because the first looks were a bit underwhelming. I did not really see if it was really Chanel or his language at Chanel. I thought, okay, that's Mathieu Blazy on the runway now, and we need to see what is Chanel. To be fair, it then progressively got better, because look 12 was the first one that made me look. It was very flowy, very easy, and then also I liked the details on the white parts. So this was the first look that made me look twice. I would not say it gave me an emotion, it triggered something, but it was something where I said like, okay, let's give it a chance. In general, Mathieu Blazy did his homework, he studied the archives, and I always say in my videos, this is something that we can expect from a creative director at a brand like Chanel. So we do see the house codes, we see the jackets, the tweed, the color scheme. We also see feathers, which I actually really liked. And we also can see the early Chanel. We see the low waistline, which is very much Chanel of the early 1920s. How this waistline was carried out worked with some garments, with other garments I'm not so sure. For example, with the skirts, where you have the skirt much lower and then you have a big white kind of like band. I'm not a big fan of that. But overall, also the set was a nod to Coco Chanel, because she had a big passion for astrology. So I think this is where the idea for this universe came from. Not everybody knows that, but I think it was kind of an impressive set. Even from the aerial images in the Grand Palais, it looked very interesting. It actually looked as if the models were walking in space, and I like that he also made this reference to the passion of Coco Chanel. Sometimes I felt that the clothes and the set did not really go well together, but I think they also picked it because it looked good for these videos, but also it looks very good when you look into the photographs. When you have all these single shots next to each other, the colors actually work really well with the color scheme that Mathieu Blazy picked. And I have to point one thing out here, I actually really liked the music. It was very different styles. We had Tchaikovsky, Connie Francis, then we had Rhythm is a Dancer, which also closed the show, which I really liked. And in between, there was even an intermezzo of Dawson's Creek. So whoever put the music together, I assume it was Mathieu Blazy. I really liked the choice of the songs. The color scheme was also very much Coco Chanel, white, black, beige, nude, and then the pop of red. I found it interesting. I also liked the choices that he made, and sometimes I liked that it was, for example, white with black details and then just a pop of color with the earrings. And speaking of those earrings, in general, I like the pop of color, the red. In general, Mathieu Blazy seems to have gotten rid of the camellia, which might be a signal. He used this feather-like flower. I think he wanted to make it work with these signature headpieces that are very much Blazy. We could say it's Chanel because of the feathers, but I think that was more his language. And then he also picked it up in other garments. For a house like Chanel, I'm not sure if these would be earrings that I would buy, not because they are not the camellia, but they looked a bit basic or something that I have seen before. I like the pop of color, but the design for me was a bit too basic, I would say. I like the cuts of the garments, the lower waistline. Some of these ensembles were really chic and easy. It reminded me of the idea that basically made Chanel easy, flowing, some jerseys. So I think that was reflected in this. Some garments worked better than others, and there was also an interpretation where we could say he took the Chanel and turned it into his version, a contemporary version, which is also quite a nice attempt, I would say. I liked look 19. I don't know if it was because of the design or because of the styling, because I think the model looked very much Chanel with the hair, but I also liked the dress. I liked the necklace with it. A lot of people loved the button-down shirts. I have to say, I think they are okay, but also knowing what Chanel will charge for these shirts, we are talking here about multiple thousands of dollars for a shirt. I'm not so sure if I'm a big fan of those. There was one outfit that I liked with a shirt combination. I think it was more the skirt movement, this red Carmen style skirt. I always call them Carmen style. I don't know if this is the real fashion language. It might not be the best look of the show, but when it walked by, also the way it was styled, it was something that I noticed and that I actually liked. I liked look 22, even though when you look at the picture, it looks a bit boring. You would not notice it probably if you only have the picture, but it worked really well on the runway. You saw the movement of these golden details, and this is a general thing when you look at this runway show. The pictures and the videos, I find that the feeling that you get from it is very different. So some things worked better on the photos, some things worked better on video. I also like this interpretation with the flowers. I think it may be knit. I could not completely verify this. And also the flower details, because it works really well. It looks elegant. Again, it's not the camellia, it's a different flower. So maybe again, this is a signal by Mathieu Blazy. So he had this in multiple colors, and I think this was actually quite a nice effort for ready to wear. Look 27 has a similar issue as what I said before. On the picture, it actually kind of looks unflattering, but when I saw it on the live stream on the runway, it was one of the pieces where I was like, I might not wear this myself, but I see where he took the inspiration from. Again, this easy to wear approach that Chanel also had. Then we have the signature black and white. I liked how she moved in it. I like the draping. Again, it's a reference to the early Chanel, but it could be something, if Chanel was alive, she maybe design something similar. So it was one of the garments that made me look twice, even though the picture doesn't look great. And then came the coats and jackets, and I do have to say they were kind of the highlight for me, even though overall I have to say this is a spring-summer collection. Sometimes it felt a bit like a fall-winter collection. The clothes looked a bit warm. There were also no sunglasses that I saw, which is also interesting. Usually you have kind of like a beachy feel for it. I'm not saying we need the flip-flops back. That's not what I'm saying. But this was the overall feeling that I got. Some things could work in spring, summer, some were too fall, winter for me. But I liked the coats. There was one with this feathery detail. And I don't know, maybe it was the way the model walked. It just looked really easy. It kind of looked like a bird. I'm not sure if everybody will find that positive, but I liked it. And I also found this brown coat really beautiful, again with this feather movement. On the pictures, it looks very different than on the go, but this is definitely something that I would look into buying. There were the obvious tweed suits. I think there was also some knitwear mixed into it. We need to take a closer look to then see, is it tweed or is it something else? I actually like this interpretation of the suit because when she walked, it looked really easy and light. So you have the tweed theme on the pattern, but it is something very easy to wear. And again, for me, that's very much Chanel. It also looked very modern. I also like this idea of the turquoise with the red. This was one of the few times where he used a different color. I'm not sure if I like the lining. I know what he was playing with because also Coco Chanel very often used contrasting lining, but this is a bit too much for me. It gave me a bit clueless, but not in a good way. But I liked the jacket, the style of the jacket also with the buttons. And then also I really like this version. This was one of the looks that actually made me look. I know it's not very much Coco Chanel because Coco Chanel really did not like the miniskirt, but it could be a bit Lagerfeld because it is a bit younger. Some people did not like it at all, but I actually think it looks quite glamorous and fun and contemporary at the same time. Mathieu Blazy is also known for his experimenting with the textiles. Maybe you remember the denim that was actually not denim, it was made from leather that he did for Bottega Veneta. If you want to learn more about this, I also talk about this in my video about Mathieu Blazy. And I think this outfit and this other coat were kind of his way of experimenting, not only with the textile, the tweed, but also with the house coats. I'm not sure if this is a memorable design or my favorite one from the whole collection. I think he wanted to show us what he is also taking from Bottega Veneta and from his own design approach to Chanel. Blazy also showed us his reinterpretation of the Chanel suit. I'm not so sure if it really works for the House of Chanel. I get the skirt, and then I also know why he used the top. This is basically his design aesthetics. He wanted to give us structure. He wants to make Chanel more interesting, but I'm not really sure if it works for Chanel. Also, given that this is ready to wear and that he said he wants to make the clothes a bit more wearable again, we could say. I'm not sure if this really then goes well with it, but maybe he wanted to give something to his fans that also came over from Bottega Veneta. For me, it's not something that I would wear. There were some jackets where I found the structure of the textile really exciting. He also gave us one interpretation actually in this orange tone, which also kind of stood out, where it was a reference of the tweed jacket, because we see kind of a print on it, but I think the jacket was made from silk, if I saw it correctly. I found this actually quite interesting. Funnily enough, this is not one of the designs that a lot of people mentioned. Maybe it just got lost in this very big collection and also the set, but this is something where I say the idea was actually interesting. The jackets that I liked most were actually these jackets. I think it was knit and they looked like nets, because for me that's a really good reference of an archival style, a house code of Chanel, and then it's taken to today, but it also has this Blazy language because it is a net that you're wearing, so it's actually not the jacket anymore. And I think it looked very flattering, it looked very elegant, it looked really cool. And Blazy also worked a lot with movement. So there was this beige or light brown dress with fringes, which had a really interesting feel when the model moved. And there was one dress that really stood out. It was floor length. And when she walked, it made this really interesting movement. It's quite interesting to see how they did it. And it actually is one of the dresses where I said it worked really well on that Universe runway. Again, it had a floral pattern, which did not really match with the Universe, but because of that movement, it looked as if the model was kind of an alien from outer space, we could say. It is kind of creepy. I'm not so sure how many people would wear it, but I find it really interesting. And imagine you wear this dress and you walk into a ballroom, even though the top is quite elegant, quite classic, the top makes it really interesting, and imagine dancing in that dress. So this was definitely one of the designs where I said like the idea with the set and also then the craftsmanship, the tailoring worked really well. There were a few designs that I find really pretty. Yes, it's ready to wear, like this black dress. Again, we are talking here about ready to wear by Chanel, so maybe I have higher expectations than just the emotion. It's nice, but it's kind of also forgettable. And now that I'm filming it and then I look back into my script, I see some dresses or outfits that I have actually forgotten already. So I'm not sure if this is the best sign. There was one stunner, and this was this white dress. First of all, white is also Chanel. The style, the way the garment flows, the way it was constructed, it was really nice. I also liked how it looked on the model, but here comes also my criticism. Of course, on this model with this body, it looks amazing. I don't know how this particular garment and that textile would look on a woman like me, for example. And this brings me to my criticism, not only for this show, but this fashion month overall, because I think there was a big lack in the diversity of body types. I think a lot of the garments would have looked more interesting if we got a real view of them. So this dress is one of the examples where I would have appreciated to see it on a different body type, to also see, would this be something that normal women can also wear. There were some jackets where I say too boxy, too unflattering. I think I know for which market this was created, which people like this. So it's fine. It's for probably a different type of customer than me. I would not wear this. And then I come back to the feathers. We saw quite a few designs with the feathers where I said this is also something that Coco Chanel worked with. we have these skirts with the feathers, and I have to say, for me, the skirt and the top very often did not work that well, and maybe I was kind of underwhelmed because I saw Louise Trotter at Bottega Veneta, and I really liked her approach with the recycled fiberglass. And then I saw this and it just felt a bit like, yeah, it's okay, it's nice, but probably a bit forgettable. I did like the colors of the skirt of the last look, and what I appreciated most was actually the attitude of the last model, Ava Odiang, I hope I said the name correctly. Had this smile on her face throughout her walk. Then she kept dancing on the runway. She waited for Mathieu Blazy. And I have to say, for me, it's really nice to see when somebody has fun on the runway. We see these models who always look sad or grim or bored. I actually liked that the show ended at this note and Mathieu Blazy came out. It was kind of like emotional for him. You could see he was relieved. There were actually plenty of bags. Of course, this is also big business for Chanel. He kind of deconstructed the icons like the flap bags or the double flap. So I was not sure what to think of this. Is this a statement that he's not going to focus on these bestsellers? Maybe it was a statement for the runway. There were other bags that looked like eggs. Also not really my style. There was one bag that I noticed, but I did not see it that much online, it was red and it had a golden bird. I don't know which bird on top. It's not very much Chanel, it's more what he did for Bottega Veneta with the sardine bag, for example, but I kind of like this and it might be a new avenue for Chanel. And the bag that I actually liked was this ball-shaped bag in a very dark blue. It looked like, again, the universe. I think there were some stars on it. So I think this was kind of like a good nod to the set, to the overall idea of this Chanel universe. So what is our verdict? I'm not gonna lie, I really waited for that live stream. I was kind of like excited. I had a wait and see approach because I did not know, would it be Mathieu Blazy or Bottega Veneta at Chanel. This is something that some people criticized. I think it was a good approach. It was not too much of each. Sometimes I think it got a bit lost. Sometimes, especially on the runway, the garments looked a bit incohesive, I have to say. I have to take a look back how the whole collection in the lookbook or in the pictures will look like. Maybe they make more sense then. Overall, I do have to say, compared to what we have seen from Chanel in the past years, it is an improvement. Was it the best show? Am I ecstatic about it? Not really, but I'm curious what's going to come. I actually want to give him a chance. I think it might be an interesting avenue for Chanel. So let's wait and see. And also please let me know what you thought. Did you like it? Did you hate it? I know it will be quite polarizing. I already saw the comments online. I'm really curious what you have to say about this. And if you enjoyed this video, please do two things to support creators like me. Please don't forget to like this video and also subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. If you prefer to read about fashion, I have tons and tons of articles on my website, thepinklookbook.com, and if you have time, you can also check out my fashion label Pelagona. And if you enjoyed this video about Mathieu Blazy's debut at Chanel, I also have another video which may be interesting for you, where I introduce Mathieu Blazy and his design language to you. Thank you very much for watching this video, and see you in the next one.